So it seems like we are not having nearly as much fun in Marvel Phase 4 as we were back when Marvel was first starting out with Phases 1, 2, and 3. And I think I have some ideas as to why. What's going on, guys? Film Cubano back here with another video. Today I wanted to take a moment to talk about Marvel, specifically Phase 4. So recently a couple of somewhat divisive Marvel films came out. We had Thor, Love and Thunder, and before that we had Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness. Now, I really enjoyed Doctor Strange, hot take, because it seems like a lot of people hated that movie. I skipped Thor, Love and Thunder because, I'm gonna be honest, I don't find Thor that interesting. I also don't think he needs 4 movies, which is more than Captain America, Iron Man, whatever. And Thor's been in like all the Avengers movies too. Has he been in the most MCU movies so far? Aside from those 2 recent movies, I did watch Moon Knight, I watched Loki, I watched WandaVision, I watched Falcon and the Winter Soldier. There's a lot of Marvel TV shows that have come out. I skipped Hawkeye, I skipped Miss Marvel, even though I've heard it's really good. But to my point, I think that a lot of people right now are starting to feel some burnout with the MCU. In my opinion, Marvel is running into, I guess, a bit of a problem in the sense that there's too much MCU content. And in some circumstances, that would be fine, except for the fact that it is becoming clearer and clearer that Marvel is stretching themselves ultra thin, like so thin you wouldn't even know it's there. I'm probably gonna edit that one out. It's beginning to show that this company is putting out so much content that it slowly feels like there's been a real drop in quality. Now, I am somebody that thinks that the MCU has probably never been that good to begin with. One of my biggest complaints was that the writing for most Marvel movies is really bad and really cringy. On that note, a lot of the Marvel movies I thought had way too many jokes. It's one thing if characters that have a sense of humor and are supposed to be funny and kind of jokey and witty like Spider-Man and Iron Man. It's one thing if they are making those jokes. It's another thing if for some reason everybody in the MCU has the exact same sense of humor, which is kind of insane. Now, aside from the frequency of all the projects they're making nowadays, there's becoming one really glaring issue. And a lot of us are confused as to why, because again, Marvel, Disney, these are billion-dollar corporations. But Marvel has a huge CGI problem right now. So I remember back in 2018 when Black Panther came out, and I loved Black Panther, and it pains me that the end of that movie is a CGI disaster. Black Panther, Killmonger, the CGI fight, why you would take 2 characters known for hand-to-hand combat, and instead of practically doing the scene, they CGI the shit out of that scene, and it looks so bad. It's not even good CGI. That's the thing. Bad CGI happens. Not every movie is going to have flawless CGI all the way through. However, this started to become more and more of a noticeable problem. You can go through pretty much any of Marvel's recent outings, whether it's Eternals with all the CGI costumes, whether it's WandaVision with their big CGI fight at the end, which is becoming another problem in Marvel. There's way too many movies or shows that start out really intriguing and then just end on a giant CGI fight, even when it doesn't seem like that's the way it should go. For a while, we thought it was pandemic based. We thought that they just weren't having enough time. There were shows like WandaVision got an episode cut. There were, things being delayed because the CGI just wasn't done yet. Some of the trailers didn't look good. But as we've gone forward, they've been just giving the green light to CGI that looks really bad. Like not even, this is like whatever sort of average. It takes you out of the movie or the show or whatever it is. And it's really disappointing because for a long time, I thought that Marvel had some of the best CGI. Like for a company that leans on CGI so heavily, to experience such a drastic drop in quality is painfully noticeable. And I don't really know how you fix this other than them reducing the schedule of how often they're putting out new content, which I'm gonna be honest, based on the next several years, now that they got X-Men back, now that they got Fantastic Four, now that Disney Plus is rolling, there's not going to be less Marvel content. So my last point that I wanted to make is just on how Marvel's formula, I think, starts to get exposed the more content they put out there. Marvel, for a long time, has hired some really, really talented directors and writers and creatives to do their films and TV shows. But they are so stuck in their formulaic approach to how they make their movies that it really doesn't matter who's in charge. And a lot of the time, if you watch their films, except for Multiverse of Madness, which is the reason I really enjoyed it, is that, for better or for worse, Sam Raimi made that movie. If you watch it, you know who made that movie. But so many of the MCU films, they could have been directed or written by anybody. It just does not matter. They feel so generic no matter how intriguing the main character might be. But the last one that felt really special was probably Black Panther, and then you get into the previous phases. But I guess Shang-Chi felt sort of fresh for a while, but then again, the end, giant CGI monster fight in a movie that was hand-to-hand combat for the whole thing, and then I don't understand. They get the director, and then they say, here's how the movie needs to go. And that really, really hurts from a creative standpoint. They have a formula that they refuse to go away from, even though we're seeing a transition as a fan base of people who are just not feeling the formula anymore. I've seen people say that Thor 4 has too many jokes, which, Marvel's been putting jokes in their movies for a really long time. I guess they're finally putting in so many that it's starting to turn people off. And I really don't know where they go from here. I would love to see Marvel switch it up and maybe put some other projects out there that start to feel a little bit different. Multiverse of Madness, as much as I enjoyed it personally, I remember when that movie was first in production, it was supposed to be like a real gritty horror movie that we hadn't seen in the MCU. And then they toned it down and people still said it was too scary. There are people that saw Multiverse of Madness and said it should have been rated R. That's insane. That movie was nowhere close to needing an R rating, and if anything, I really wish they had leaned more into the horror aspect than they did. I hope that the MCU starts to either dial back the amount of projects they are constantly pumping out. We got She-Hulk in a couple weeks, and that CGI is maybe some of the worst we have seen so far. Hopefully they got around to fixing it, but I don't know. This is getting frustrating, and as a comic books fan and a comic book movie fan, and I think Marvel has some really, really great films in their catalog, but it seems like it's becoming more and more constant that quality is taking a major, major bump. Thanks for watching.